Welcome to another episode of Blood and Bones with your host, Mandy Tang. And for today's episode, I'm going to be talking about creativity, our relationship with creativity, and how we can actually productize it, especially if you are a writer. I'm going to let you in on my process of how I wrote my Should I Quit journal, and also my process, which I'm literally in the middle of, for writing my book. It's the first, formally published book called Career Wounds. Okay, and the funny thing is that these two sort of actually play together. They're sort of like dark cousins. So let's start with why I even realized that I wanted to be a writer and how this all came about. Okay. So if you are a writer, you understand that this is like an affliction. Okay. This is not something you ask for. This is not something that you wake up and say, oh, thank goodness I'm a writer. It's almost a compulsion. It's almost like your relationship with words and permanence and words on the page and the way that words sit next to each other and your choice of words and the music that words can create and the feelings and the way that it can transport you. It's like a disease. It's like just something you really can't get rid of. You have it. You were born with it. That's it. Okay? And the irony of being a writer is that writing never comes easily. Okay, like writing is this process of expressing yourself, and it's 1,000 little micro decisions about, first, what is your opinion? How will you express that? How will you make it a delight to read? How will you engage with the words? And it's also a terror in that you so badly want it to be good. Okay? People who are good writers are good observers. They're good listeners. They understand how details fit in together. They understand big picture things. It's like the ultimate symphony of intellect and creativity coming together, aka it's a big pain in the ass. Okay. I have known since I was, literally elementary school. Like, I love to write little stories. My favorite game that I would play by myself in my room when I was like a little girl was librarian. I would literally line up all my stuffed animals, and then I would sit on one side of this like wicker bench thing, and I would take like a fake scanning gun, and I would like open up the book and I would like scan it, and then I would like hand it to the stuffed animal, and then I'd like move the next stuffed animal up in the row. Like, I'm insane. Okay. I have wanted to do some kind of writing or something around this for my entire life. Like, I used to go to bookstores and just look at all the books and be like, that was a person's idea in their head, and now it's a book on the shelf, and like, I want to someday do that. Okay. Probably starting last year, maybe the year before, but it was recent. Okay, guys, this is not something that this is not like a dream that I've been holding close for a long time. It's something that floated away from me, and I could see in the distance. I knew it was there, but I kind of just ignored it / loved it from afar, I guess is how I would put it. I knew the dream was there. I wasn't ready to pick it up. I wasn't ready to make it a thing. I was scared. I was scared of what it would mean. I was scared of, what if I'm actually not a good writer? What if I just think I want to be a writer, but I'm actually not good? And what does good even mean? And all of these weird swishing thoughts in my head, right? Constantly. And what ended up happening is two things. So one, I started journaling more. So I started journaling more, and every time I would journal, something about writing would come up. It would be like, maybe you should go to this writing conference, or maybe you should consider going to this artist residency, which makes no sense because why the hell would I be going to an artist residency? It's just random, okay? Or anytime I would see on LinkedIn that someone that I had gone to school with had published something, I would get a pang of jealousy, or just I'm so happy for them, but I'm also just what the fuck? That should be me. It was so intense, and it was almost I couldn't ignore it anymore. Okay. And over time, I just came to realize wait, this is actually a dream. Your dream is not to host resume workshops. Your dream is not to even to be on a panel. None of this, you don't care about any of this. The only thing you care about is that before you die, you want to write something. And originally, and I think that ultimately this is where I will get back to, but originally my idea was I want to go full fantasy and write fiction, and I want to write vampire romance fiction with Asian undertones. I just want to go full crazy and do world building and just create these characters. And obviously there's a lot of energy there. I think one day that will happen. But I also had this desire, because they say, you should write what you want to read. If you guys look at my shelves, I don't know if you can see it. I don't think you can see it. But if you were to look at my bookshelves, okay, every single book on my bookshelf, literally I have 5 rows of books. Every single book is some kind of self-help book. I'm going to just read you some titles. The Reiki Manual, Ayurveda, The Inner Tradition of Yoga, Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine, Feminine Genius, Total Health, The Chinese Way, Divine Messengers, Warrior Goddess Training, Awakening to the Spirit World. Every single thing, I'm not even kidding you, okay? I have a little bit devoted to Emily Henry, but everything else is essentially self-help. And I was okay, I love to read it. I love getting immersed in self-help. I love feeling there's actions I can take. This is the genre that I'm obsessed with. And what I like about self-help is that it makes you feel like someone's just in your corner, like a buddy talking in your ear, giving you practical advice, letting you know about different systems and methodologies. But really just it's a vibe, it's got this kind of positive, upbeat, real talk vibe. And I was that shit's a vibe. That's what I want. If I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do self-help. Okay. I didn't know what kind of self-help. I didn't know if it was going to be, I'm talking to moms trying to get back into the workplace. I'm talking to people who are trying to be entrepreneurs. I didn't know. Okay. I was I'm going to figure that out later. But I knew the tone and the kind of structure of self-help was going to be my jam. Okay. So back in January, I'm out here, I'm hustling. I realized finally, I'm going to pull in that anchor dream that's just floating far away. I'm going to pull that in. It's time. It's time. It's time to really look at this and try to make it into something. Okay. I'm signing up for writing conferences. I'm really doing it. I paid $700 to go to a writing I really was put your money where your mouth is. Is that anyway? I was you're going to go and actually invest in this stuff. Okay. I'm out here. I'm look, I have a Notion tab for literary agents. I have a Notion tab for how to get, I just start educating myself on this stuff. And it's really honestly freaking me out. Cause I'm fuck. I'm no, I'm nobody. What? I've never published anything. I don't have any connections. Nobody cares. I just felt I'm just walking around in the dark, but let's try this, And this is the key is if you guys ever want something, if you find yourself starting a spreadsheet on it, just starting some kind of like Google Docs/notes thing for yourself, just like cataloging information on a topic that you're like, I am uneducated on this thing. I'm just going to tell you, you're probably going to be successful because it's crazy to do that, to have the energy and time and focus to be like, I'm going to research this thing that makes no sense. Okay. Fully encourage, and just know that if you already have those random ass spreadsheets, that probably is going to lead to something beyond your wildest imagination. Okay. So yeah, I had my little dream list of literary agents. I sign up for Publishers Marketplace. I mean, I'm going full. I'm paying $25 a month for Publishers Marketplace. Like I'm full on a Publishers Lunch, whatever it's called. And it's like in secret. I mean, I'm not really telling people that I'm doing this, maybe like my good friends, but I'm like out here trying to be a writer. Okay. I'm embarrassed. I think it's silly. I'm doing it anyway. All right. So I start pitching. I have an opportunity at this writing conference to go pitch a publisher. I ended up not being able to go to the writing conference because I got COVID. Okay. The publisher is so nice and is like, well, I know you'd signed up for this time. Like, if you want to do a 10-minute Zoom call, like, I'm happy to. End up pitching an idea to her. At that point, I was like deep in TikTok and I was talking about career wounds on TikTok. And I knew it was a thing. Career wounds is just like a term that I used in my own brain. Like when people would ask, hey, Mandy, what kind of coaching do you do? I'd be like, oh, I help people heal their career wounds. Haha. And everybody would kind of get it. But when I started using this term on TikTok, people really were like, holy shit, like what is a career wound? And I'd be like, oh, a career wound, right, is when you have some kind of unprocessed, unhealed trauma at work and you bring it with you and you keep carrying that wound with you from place to place until you learn your karmic lesson, obviously. But I wouldn't say it took off, but there were enough people that were like, oh my God, like I have a career wound. And I was like, of course you do. We all do. We're all walking around with like bullets in our chest. Like we all have this. Okay. I just had put a name to it. I'm sure I'm not the first person in the world to like use this terminology. Okay. So that's my idea that I pitched to the publisher. I'm like, I'm already in it. I talk about this every day. My idea for the book is a book called Career Wounds. I'm going to talk about all the various all the various wounds and all the villains of the workplace. And we're going to dissect it and name it and analyze it. And then we're going to come up with a strategy for how to heal. Okay. Pitch that to her. She's like, sounds great. Send me the book proposal. I send her the book proposal. I don't hear anything for months, which is totally normal. And I'm not trying to beat myself up for this, but I have to tell you that, and everybody on the internet is like, don't worry, it just takes this long. And I also was like, this is the first person I've ever formally pitched. Like chances are nothing's going to happen. But I also have to tell you, in those months where I didn't hear anything back, I kept going and I pitched probably 6 or 7 different literary agents. I was so lame. I was like, hi. I was like, hi, my name's Mandy and at the time, I have X number of 20,000 followers on TikTok and I talk about career. Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. Guess what? Not a single agent wrote back to me. So at this point, I'm like, okay. I mean, I know this stuff takes time and like I if anything, I'm resilient, right? But there's also a part of me that's just like, well, I was honestly quite turned off by the gatekeeping establishment. And I was like, okay, I could like keep hustling and keep knocking on doors. And eventually, yes, maybe someone would like take a chance on me. But I also was like, this isn't working. It's like just literally nobody cares. And I was like, okay, if this isn't working, then you have to try something else. And I also was just tired of waiting for permission. Because I think that if you are a creative, like, of course, we want the 6-figure deal from Random House. Of course, we want like Netflix to affirm us and tell us that, oh my gosh, you're so charismatic, like you're going to get a show. Like we all I mean, I guess that sounds gross to some people, but like we all to some degree want that, right? As in, we want something we can like tell our mom, and our mom is going to be like, oh, wow, I've heard of that. That means you are good and smart, you know? But I realized like, okay, that's not coming. Like, and I'm not going to wait for Prince Charming to come save me. I'm going to go do something myself. And it was a little bit of this resentment, anger, to be honest with you, that I was like, well, fine. If nobody wants to like publish my stuff and nobody cares, then I have this random ass idea. Why don't I just do something for myself? And I have this other idea where like, what if I made a journal for people that are trying to figure out if they should quit or not? And what if I called it, Should I Quit? And I was so tickled, like I was so personally amused by the whole thing that I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And here was my approach. The kids had spring break. They had like the month of March off. And me and my husband were like, okay, we could go somewhere or we could have a staycation and we could both just like work on our writing projects, okay? Because my husband is a writer as well. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's just work on our writing projects. And like, I had that whole week. I could have done anything. And I was like, well, let's just like, let's try to do this thing. Let's try to write this random ass journal. And so what I did was it's a very visual experience. So I basically had like note cards, and I would write like ideas on the note cards, and then I would like lay them on the floor, and then I would rearrange them because I was like, it's a journal, it's a workbook. You're meant to kind of interact with it. So it basically is just going to be a series of like steps and a series of questions. And the whole time I was just fueled purely by delusion, if I'm being honest. Like in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to actually figure out how to print and bind this at home. And my goal for how many to sell is like, I'm going to just try to break even. So the machine that I bought on Amazon at first, it was just like it was like you put the papers in, it creates 32 little holes, and then you can get this kind of metal binding ring, and then you can put it in the machine and it binds it. That machine was like $75, okay? So I figured I ordered some supplies. I was like, okay, let me try to get some nice paper. Let me get some covers. Let me like go figure out what the hell this whole binding situation is. I got deep into the world of mybinding.com. Didn't even know this was like a website that existed. Just like got into it, okay? And was like, I don't know. I did the math and I was like, if I sell basically 20 copies, then I'll have broken even. And the goal was not even money. The goal was just to have proven to myself that I could do it. Right? And I like put this up on my website. I didn't even know what to charge. There's like a girl that I follow on TikTok, and she has a journal. It's like a social media journal. And she had it like, I think she ordered it from somewhere like overseas and then got it. I don't know overseas, but she's not making it at home, okay? But it's like, it was beautiful. And she was charging $28. So I was like, okay, like I'll just charge $28 for mine too. Like there was so little strategy, guys, in this. It's really embarrassing because I wish I could have said, oh, I had this grand master plan. I really didn't. I just was like, I'm going to write this thing to the best of my ability. I'm going to do it in a week because that's what I have, right? I'm so pissed because nobody wants to publish me, and I'm getting not even rejection. I'm just getting silence from everywhere that I apply or reach out to or pitch. Because each one of these agents that you pitch to like needs it in a specific way. They have like instructions on their website of like, okay, we need you to send it in a PDF or send it in the body of an email. And like, so I'm following all these instructions. I'm getting nowhere. And trust me, I kept going. Like I sent it into like 5 or 6, but I fully was intending on like, okay, go all in, send it to 50, 100 if you need to. Like that was my mentality. I'm sure I would have given up a couple times, but I'm sure I also would have gotten back on the horse. But anyway, so I'm out here and I'm like, all right, so now you have this other self-made journal, which, okay, like, all right, we'll see how this goes. And I had obviously seen TikTok Shop, and I just had this little voice in my head that was like, you should put it on there because maybe it'll help, because I didn't know how else to like drive traffic to my website. Like, besides like, maybe the 100 people that I actually know in real life, like I do not know how to get people to, like, I'm not an SEO expert, So I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, so we're just gonna do it. And I'll tell you, there's 2 things that I think really moved the needle for me. And I really hope that by sharing them, it can like inspire you. If you want to make a journal, great. This isn't about that. This is about taking a risk and creating something because it just comes to you and you just want to do it. And even if there's no payoff, to just do it. Okay. So the first thing that happened is it was April and we went out east to see, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was like an eclipse. So we went out east to see the eclipse and I had been talking to my father-in-law about what I was doing and I told him about this journal. And at that point I had sold 3 copies. One person I knew. So really I'd sold 2 copies. One person was like a friend, right? So I was like, I'd sold 2 copies. I sold 1 off of TikTok Shop, which I thought was already like a miracle. Okay. So I showed him the journal and he was the first person that had actually looked at it and read it. And I sat across, we were at this dining room table and I sat across from him and I was like shy. I was like, oh, if you want to see like what I've been working on, like I have this thing. And I showed it to him and I watched him flip through the pages. And it was the first time that I'd seen anyone kind of interact with something that had been like just from my brain onto a page. And I think what was really cool is that he got it. Like he understood it almost immediately. He was like flipping through, and there's like some esoteric stuff. I mean, there's some stuff where, maybe it requires some voiceover, but he got it and he was like, oh, I totally get what you're doing here. This is great. Like, this is actually really helpful. And I think it's like well written. And I think that these are some good questions. And I mean, I'm already like married to his son for many, many years. So there's no incentive to like bullshit me. You know what I mean? And that was when I was kind of like, oh, really? You think so? Like, oh, okay. So it does make sense. Like, oh, okay. So that kind of gave me like a boost of confidence to actually like show it to someone whose opinion I valued and to be like, oh shit, okay, like this is actually like landing. Cause I also thought like, he's older. And so I was like, is it going to make sense? Cause I'm writing it in kind of a way that's like my language, but it translated for him. So anyway, that was like the first time that I kind of got a little bit of a pep in my step. And I was like, yeah, okay, like maybe I am onto something, Okay, that was the first thing. The second thing is, in my mind, I had this idea that I was going to create a series of videos for the journal, meaning I was going to do 1 video per page. And the idea was I'm just going to like literally go through it page by page and be like, okay, here's just a voiceover. On this page, here's what I want you to think about, and just kind of be like the friendly video tutorial companion for the journal. When I tell you guys, I did 5 videos. I was like on page 5. What? When I tell you that these videos got maybe 100 views on TikTok, like The silence was loud. Again, nobody cared. And I was tired. I had just come back from the trip. I was like, I don't want to make, oh my God, I make 23 more videos. What the hell? I don't want to do this, right? Like, you feel so stupid. You're like, I'm just here talking to a void, and I made this product and it was so lame, and like nobody is even liking it or commenting. Like, it's so it's so just okay, fine. I tried, right? But I had made this promise to myself, this irrational promise where I was like, I'm going to make a video per page and I don't care, because at least in my mind, I was so over myself. I was so cringe at myself. I was like, let me just make them so then I can be done and never have to talk about it again. And then like I'll just like pretend it never happened. Okay. But this is exactly what I think you have to do is like, then on the 6th video, okay, again, 5 videos, every time I'm like, hey guys, my name's Mandy. And I wrote this journal. And by the way, it wasn't even 6 because I think I had this idea that I was going to make random video. Guys, my brain is so funny. I had this idea. You can laugh at me. Go ahead. I had this idea that I was like, I told my husband, I was so proud of myself. I was like, okay, so I'm going to make random videos where it's like you're dropped into page 23 and then people will be like, oh my God, what is this? I have no context, but we're on page 23, so it must be something. And I was like, so isn't that great? It'll just be like so random. They'll just be dropped in and they'll be so intrigued by they'll be so intrigued by what it is that they'll have no choice but to be like, what is this journal? Of course, every single one of those videos flopped as well because like it doesn't make any sense. And then, truly anything that you're successful at requires momentum. It requires you to hit your head against the wall 50 times before like something takes off. So, okay, I'm telling you, I think I made 15 videos in a row. Set up, hit record, edit, publish like 15 times. Crickets, like nothing, like nobody cares. And I'm just still sitting, by the way, nobody cares about this thing that I just made. And I'm still out here pitching to like literary agents for this idea for a book. And again, nobody cares. Nobody even says no. They just like ignore me. It was a great time. But on the 6th video, 6/25th video in the series that went unnoticed, it hit just suddenly. And listen, we all know that TikTok or social algorithms are very unpredictable. I'm not saying anything, like it could have just been luck, who knows? But that a video hit, and I think in one day I got like 50,000 views on this one video, and it did start to take off. Like it went from 0 sales to it was like 100 sales in one day. And I didn't have the equipment. I didn't have anything. You should have seen me. I think also this was a week when my husband was traveling. So I'm like home with the 2 kids. I'm like ordering takeout. I'm like trying to call Office Depot to see if they can deliver more paper. I mean, it's a hot mess. Okay. It was like the best week of my life, but a hot mess. And all I'm saying is like, so the journal starts taking off and I'm like, holy moly, like who even needs traditional publishing? Like this is amazing. And then I think like a month later, I get an email back from that publisher and she was like, yeah, offer to publish. It's just, I can't. Okay. Lesson of this wacko story is you have to know what you want. And if it's writing, great, then my story will track very well for you. But you have to know what you want and you have to live in a delusional state before other people catch up. Okay? So in my example with the journal, I was in a delusional state for a good 2-3 months before anyone caught up. Okay? And with the book, well, I was in a denial state for about 20 years, pretending I didn't want to be a writer. That's a lie. I did. And then I was in a probably 6-month state of like pitching. But also, I'm going to also zoom out and be like, me as a creator on TikTok, I was in a delusional state for a good 2 years before the account took off. Everybody says, oh, you can grow your account. So not me. Not me. That shit took me a long time. I had a lot of mental blocks to get over. I had to feel more safe being seen. I had to figure out what the heck my voice was online. I mean, there's been a journey, okay? But I'm here to just encourage you and say it's possible. Be delusional. Be more delusional than you think you should be. Knowing what your strengths are, okay? I knew the journal was good. I thought it was good. I mean, you don't ever really know, but I had reasonable confidence that, and then also just one last thing that I'm going to add is I knew the journal was good in some respects, meaning I knew the questions. I would bet my life that the questions were good because that was based on my expertise, my coaching, So that was indisputable because that had been road tested. Like, oh, I know these questions are good and right because I've asked my clients these questions for years. I know that shit is airtight. Okay, so you have to figure out what thing is airtight for you. All right? When it comes to the production of it, I'll show you guys if you're watching on YouTube, the binding of it, the design of it, oh my God, that is not a strength. I mean, look, my strength is make it cute. Like I can pick a cute sticker. I can pick a cute color. I can say, oh, I think a blush pink goes well with gold. Great. But design is not my forte. It's not. And so my confidence in terms of how it's laid out and the design, I mean, it's like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm the world's greatest graphic designer. I'm not. I created this in Canva, but it doesn't matter because the core, the essence of what it is, which is a series of introspective questions, right? I know that shit is good. And so that's, I think, something that you can take pride in or have confidence in is whatever is your true strength and your true, beyond a shadow of a doubt that is tight is what you should rely on. Okay. So I hope this episode was inspiring, fun. I don't know. Just hopefully if you're driving or washing the dishes or prepping dinner or doing whatever you're doing in your big life, that this was just keeping you company. And that's really all I hope that this podcast is. And just thank you guys so much. If you have questions, leave them in the comments, or you can always go to my website, get in touch. And I just hope you have an awesome, beautiful week. Okay. I love you guys. Bye.